Hello and welcome to another episode of Cooking on Caffeine. My name is Megan and I'm your host. My passion is inclusion at the table, making sure that everybody can enjoy whatever's made, no matter what their dietary restrictions are. That means that we are turning all of our family favorite recipes both vegan and allergy friendly. So grab a cup of coffee and let's get started. Welcome again to Cooking on Caffeine. On today's episode, we are going to be making some golden fried tofu. The reason that I do this is it's a great alternative to chicken breast when you're wanting to stuff it for a recipe. I'm actually going to be doing this for a stuffed chicken marsala recipe that I'm working on. And step one is I need to fry the tofu. So let's get started with that. I get this high protein, super firm tofu that is vacuum packed. That way I don't have to press it because I'm a very impatient person. So high protein, super firm, vacuum packed. This is the one that I go with. We are going to, step one, cut this open carefully. I like to use an X-Acto knife for cutting open packages so I don't slice into the tofu inside. And it is vacuum packed, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of liquid. But what is in there, you want to make sure to drain it. You can save this and use it, add it to soups and boil it down, use it for meringues and stuff like that. It's called aquafaba. It is bean water. And yes, it will work from tofu. You just have to simmer it down a bit more than you would from garbanzo beans or kidney beans or something like that. Cut this the rest of the way open here. And again, I'm being extra careful to make sure I don't mar the tofu that is on the inside. Flip it open beautifully like that. And now I need to make sure that I rinse it in a bit of cold water and pat it dry because we are going to put it in some very hot oil and we don't want it to spatter around a whole lot. So let me do that real quick. Okay, my tofu is rinsed and I have some paper towel here as well as a clean kitchen towel, actually a napkin from a restaurant that I used to work at. And I'm just going to make sure that you pat this dry. And I'll put it right back on the paper towel. And I'm going to let this hang out for just a little bit while we get our oil ready. And to do the oil, I just got 2 cups of vegetable oil here. Use whatever oil is safe for you. I'm going to add it to our pan. A medium-sized saucepan is perfect for this. And I'm going to turn it up to medium high. This goes up to 6. And I'm turning it up to 4. We're gonna let this heat up. We'll know it's hot enough when we stick a bamboo skewer, chopstick, wooden spoon, whatever in the oil and it'll start to bubble around it. And if you put a drop of water, it'll sizzle. So I'm gonna move my aquafaba over here. And we're gonna talk a little bit about how we slice our tofu. If you are not going to be using this to make stuffed tofu, and I'm not talking about I believe it is the Vietnamese dish or the Chinese dish that they make little squares of tofu, scoop out a little bit of the top, so it's kind of like a deviled egg, and then they put the stuffing on that. That's not what we're doing. I'm going to be hollowing out the tofu on the inside, and then we're going to put our stuffing in there, so it's more like a stuffed chicken breast alternative for the vegans who don't want to eat chicken or people with autoimmune issues that they can't eat meat. We're going to make this a safe alternative for them. I have a plate lined with some paper towel so that I can drain the tofu once it comes out of the oil. You want to make sure that you have that ready. I also have a pair of tongs, heat-safe tongs, so that we can flip over the tofu without hurting ourselves. And I have this spider, this is called a spider, so that I can scoop out the tofu, drain as much of the oil off as I can, to put it on my plate. I just bought this. This will be the first time that I'm using it, and I'm pretty excited. This is heating up pretty quick here, so I'm gonna talk about our tofu and how we're gonna cut it. If you have been a part of any of the great sandwich slicing debates, this is a lot like that. You can slice and dice this tofu any way that you want to, but for presentation's sake, I have found that the best way to do it is to slice it diagonal, just like the way that you should slice a grilled cheese sandwich, diagonally. Don't talk to me about horizontal or vertical slicing of grilled cheese sandwiches. I won't have any of that. We are going to do it diagonal. So I am going to slice diagonal. I'm not going to do it on the paper towel. I'm going to do it right over here. Nice sharp knife, because we do not want to crumble the tofu. The whole reason that we're frying it is so we can make a stuffed tofu that does not crumble on us. So here we are. 2 beautiful slices of tofu. Let me pat this bit dry here, because we don't want that to spatter on us in the oil either. And what we're going to do once we fry it and it's nice and golden on the outside, it's going to form a kind of a skin that's like cooked chicken. It's going to have kind of the same texture. It's going to hold up. It's not going to crumble. And we are going to scoop out the insides of the tofu here. And that's where we're going to put our stuffing. And I'm going to be doing a spinach and parmesan stuffing for it to pair together with the marsala sauce I'm going to be working on. Again, just going to keep patting this because it's expelling a little bit of the water. And I have a little bit of a fear of hot oil, so I'm trying to be as careful as I possibly can be. Our oil is getting nice and hot. So I'm going to do the test with a wooden chopstick. We're just going to stick it right in there and see if it gets bubbles on it. And we are getting some bubbles coming off of the chopstick. Hopefully you can see that in the video, coming off the very bottom of the chopstick there. So I'm going to call that good. And I am going to lower in my first bit of tofu here. Turn this down just in case, because sometimes the stove likes to heat up a little bit more than what I am ready for. Very carefully lower in the tofu. Can you hear that sizzle? It was ready. And we want to make sure we lay it down on the side so it gets as much of the oil on it as possible. Let that heat up a bit. I'm going to put the next one in. Make sure they're not touching or they could stick together. And we don't want that, because then we're not going to get that pretty presentation that we're looking for. At this point, you're just going to want to keep an eye on the tofu. As soon as it starts to turn a golden brown color, which could be anywhere from 3 minutes to upwards of 10 minutes or even more, depending on the type of tofu that you have, you want to flip it. Otherwise, it's going to start to get kind of a burnt, bitter, like an astringent kind of taste to it. And we don't want that. We want this to be nice and mild, the same way that a chicken breast is. And once you, got a little bit sticking on the bottom there. Wiggle it around a little bit. Once you fry it golden and it gets that beautiful skin on the outside, it's going to soak up the flavors of any sauce that you put it in or on, or any marinade or anything that you want to do to it. This is a really great preparation of tofu for dishes where you really want to infuse a lot of flavor into the tofu. So again, just keep your eye on it. When it starts to turn nice and golden, we're going to flip it over. Alright, it's been around 10 minutes And I just move these every couple of minutes, wiggle them around to make sure they didn't stick to the bottom. And as you can see, very carefully try to lift. It is turning a nice golden brown color on the bottom. So that is ready for me to flip over. Just going to repeat the same process. Carefully lower it and set it on the other side so the other side gets to cook the same way. And now we just wait. Alright, it's only been about 5 minutes this time. It does seem to go quicker on the second side. As you can see, we're getting golden brown in there. I want to make sure that this side and this side though are nice and firm so I can carve it out. So I'm going to give it a quick fry on that side as well. Just like that. Lean it against the side of the pan so it doesn't splash down on me. So give it a quick wiggle around once you set it to make sure that it doesn't stick. Give that a couple minutes and then I'm going to flip it around to the other side, repeat the process, and then we are ready to drain it, let it cool, and then carve it out for our recipe. Okay, I'm going to check the bottoms of these. And yes, we've got a nice golden brown color on all of those sides except for the one that we're going to be carving out. We're going to drain as much of this oil as we can, put it on our plate. Just like so they're not touching. I'm going to turn off the stove. Get this cleaned up. I'm going to let this cool for about 15 to 20 minutes and we're going to come back and carve it out to prepare it for our recipe. Okay, so here we have our fried golden tofu. It's been cooling for about 20 minutes now. As you can see, we have a really beautiful golden crust on the outside of all of our main sides of the tofu, except for the one that we're going to be carving. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to clean out the inside. We're going to make it hollow so that we can put our stuffing in there for whatever recipe we want to use. There are a few different ways that you can do this. Some people like to use a melon baller tool like this. Some people like to do it just with a spoon. My favorite way, the easiest way for me, is just using a paring knife. Going around the edges and then using the spoon to kind of pull it out as we go. And I like to use the filling of the tofu in other recipes like my vegan queso fresco or my vegan cotija cheese recipe. It's also good to use it as the bulk in different stuffings. I'm not going to use it in this stuffing because why would I be taking out the tofu to put the tofu back in? But you can use it in other recipes. I like to hold it with a paper towel to grab any excess oil that wants to come out and sort of cradle it in my hand. I've got my pinky on this side, my thumb on this side. This is supporting all of the tofu, so we are minimizing the risk of splitting it in half or cracking it down in the middle. And we're just going to take our paring knife about 1/2 inch from the outside. Make sure we get all the way down towards the bottom there. Repeat up here, same thing, all the way over. And then we got to do this side here. Make sure we meet. It's gonna start to lift, and that's when you'll know that your lines are intersecting. And then we got one last one here. You want to make sure you don't get too close to the edge, otherwise your filling could leak out, or you could split the tofu wide open. So that should be good. Now I'm going to use my spoon to gently pop the tofu out, because it is still connected on the back side there. Be very careful as you go not to go all the way. Oh, we lost one. Put that right back in. Not to go all the way to the corner. Just get out as much as you can without compromising the stability of your tofu shell here. Almost there. Oh, I went through a little bit too far on this side. Got a little bit of a hole. That's okay. That one will be mine. But as you can see, it holds up pretty darn well. We're going to be able to put our stuffing in here and then cook it in a sauce, and it's going to hold up beautifully for us. Put that right back there. Repeat the process with tofu number 2. Tofu number 2 is done, nice and hollow, just begging for some stuffing in there. And that's it. We're gonna let these cool. I'm gonna make my stuffing and make up my tofu marsala recipe, but this is the recipe for the golden tofu shells. This is my alternative to chicken breast. It is gluten-free for the folks that can't have seitan. And it's great for any vegan, meat-free, stuffed protein recipe. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Cooking on Caffeine. Again, I'm Megan, and I hope you enjoyed this recipe for golden fried tofu pockets for any kind of stuffing that you want to put in there. Our gluten-free and vegan alternative to stuffing a chicken breast. I hope you guys give it a try. I hope you like it, and may you and your coffee both be strong.